For those of you new to this, my primary work is Echoes of Home, the story of a man from Earth who finds himself in the game world, has adventures, meets a native, marries her, has adventures with her, and eventually finds a way back to Earth. He didn't expect to find his way back to Earth. He just found a portal and said, "Hey, come with me, we'll have new adventures." And so they wound up in Oklahoma. Middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, small town. They are rather overpowered individuals in a rather underpowered for them world. Slice of life, a little bit of action, a little bit of urban fantasy, and a certain amount of romance. When last we left our happy couple, they had been trying to deal with the fallout of a drive-by shooting at a martial arts studio that they had been training at. It shouldn't have happened. Apparently it did because somebody talked to the wrong person. So they have been trying to protect the place and remake it with new bulletproof windows. And that should be wrapping up any day now. Let's see. Link up at the top for the book on Wattpad. It's also on Royal Road if you want to look for it there. This is Echoes of Home, Book 1, Entry 100 by Tsu'na. Headphones. I do not harvest for fun. I do not look to harvesting as something to do for enjoyment, as I do with reading. It is something that needs doing. We usually need more of something for all of our projects, so there is always a reason to harvest something. There were times in Eorzea when we would harvest large amounts of something to build something large, like an airship or submersible, or even a house. This was something husband and I could do together in the snows of Corythus, or the barren rocks of northern Thanalan, or the marshes of Upper Lanasia. We could talk, or joke, or even argue. The idea of gathering as something Zen-like was not, as far as I know, taught in Eorzea. This was something I learned from husband, and I have mostly applied it here on Earth. Mindlessly gathering for hours is a way to make things like anger or dread or confusion go away, simply thinking more and more about where to swing my hatchet or pickaxe. Husband has said gathering helps him think through ideas, that keeping his hands busy lets his mind do what it needs to do. It is not as useful when one does not have any of these things. If I am not angry or dreading or confused or thinking through ideas, it is something that needs doing when I think I could perhaps be doing something else. Since the gathering lets me let go of other thoughts and feelings, I should be able to let go of that feeling as well. Perhaps this is something I can learn in time. Yesterday was not that time. Yesterday, after finishing Tony's window and messaging husband about it, I harvested corn solely because we will need corn. No thoughts troubled me, no feelings stirred me, the project in our list did not excite me. I was only there to harvest corn. Over time, I did not want to harvest corn. The fields I harvest from are largely empty these days, except for the vegetation patches that perhaps only husband and I can find. The cornfield once held a lot of corn. Someone had to have removed it. Even if they used a machine to do so, it must have taken a lot of time. How could they spend days, perhaps moons, doing this sort of work if I had trouble doing it for an afternoon? When I asked this at dinner, husband shrugged and said, "People do. They have jobs where they do the same thing for hours every day. They've got the temperament for it, or they find their inner tranquility, or whatever, or not. They need the money, so they'll do whatever they have to do." Have you done that sort of work? Cleaning at the diner is the closest I've come. That is not quite the same. Things happen at the diner. The children are interesting. Yeah, especially when they knock a milkshake off the table. It helps when I have something to think about, or not think about, or be angry about. You want me to upset you every day, my love? I think not. It would be nice if I could read while I harvest. Well, you can, sort of. You've been getting books from Amazon, right? They have audio editions of a lot of stuff. Audio editions? Yeah, a recording of somebody reading the book aloud so that you can listen to it while doing something else. Does that work with all books? I can think of things in books that are better to see. You mean like long conversations where it doesn't say who's saying what? Does that happen a lot? More often than you'd think. I considered. I suppose it would be like listening to a storyteller, but there is no sound system in a cornfield. Use headphones. Don't you do that when you game? They do not fit my head well. I do not move when I game, so that is not a problem. I move much more when harvesting. He grew thoughtful. He looked at me silently for a while. Husband, sir, I got an idea. Can you give me $100? And do you have any cotton left? I went to the diner alone after that while husband took the bus somewhere. Hours later, he came to the diner and asked for my phone. He set it in some headphones on the counter and did something to the phone settings. These are Bluetooth headphones. Once I paired them with the phone, you can play music and audiobooks on the phone and listen to them with the headphones. I said before that headphones do not fit me. You did, yes. He drew a cotton coif from his inventory. Here, try this on. I looked at the coif. It was not an ordinary one. It was called a cotton headphone coif of gathering. Remarkably hard to say out loud. It had a sort of pocket on its crown. Husband must have made a new recipe for it. This does not boost my gathering much. Yeah, but you're harvesting corn. How much gathering do you need? I put it on. It allowed for my ears, but the pocket covered them at the base. Okay, hold still. He picked up the headphones and brought them to my head. I felt them sliding into the pocket and over the base of my ears. He brought up an app on my phone, and I started to hear music. He showed me two buttons on the phone. I pressed them and found the music getting louder and quieter. I nodded to husband. This works. My voice was strangely quiet with the music playing. He pointed to a button in the app, then pressed it and the music stopped. Now, I'm pretty sure Bluetooth won't work while your phone's in your inventory, so I got you a fanny pack too. He handed me a pouch on a belt. What is a fanny? Old-fashioned word for butt. I do not want this bumping my tail. So wear it in the front. A lot of people do. But it is a fanny pack. He looked at me and sighed. I smiled and glanced away and saw the children looking at us. At me, perhaps. I struck a pose for them. They stared at me, then slowly turned away. So, what's your first audiobook, my love? The Lord of the Rings, I think. Sam was surprised I had not heard of it. Oh my God. Contraction. She doesn't use contractions. And is published in two places like that. The Lord of the Rings, I think. Sam was surprised I had not heard of it. Husband winced. Yeah, that's up there with Superman these days. But start with The Hobbit. That comes before it. We got to my Kindle account on the phone and downloaded The Hobbit. I used the app to start it playing. As the man's voice sounded in my ears, I gave husband a hug and a kiss, then left him to handle the register while I cleaned, since he had worked so hard for me to hear books. Over the rest of the evening, I learned of hobbits and dwarves and wizards and dragons and pocket handkerchiefs. During the day today, as husband went to install Tony's window and I went to harvest corn, I learned further of trolls and elves and giants and goblins and whatever Gollum was. Later in the day, I took the bus to Tulsa, and Rika learned of primals and tempering in dungeons. And I learned of players other than husband. Perhaps I would have minded not being ignorant of them. It is now late afternoon as I sit in this place called McDonald's drinking a Coke and typing while waiting for husband to meet me. Soon, husband assures me, I will learn of Peking duck. Yes, folks, I got a typo online. Pénible. Entry 101 by Steve. Back in business. Tsu'na was happy with the hat I made for her. Or, more specifically, she was happy about being able to enjoy literature while working. Gotta figure out how to do that economically, though. Audiobooks are a lot more expensive than Kindle editions. Back in the day, there was a service called Books on Tape where you paid a monthly and could borrow a box of cassettes at a time. Maybe there's some membership plan like that out there today. With Tuna planning a day of consuming corn and Tolkien, I headed to Tulsa for what I hope was my last day at Flying Tigers. Tony was probably looking forward to it, counting the minutes until the window was in and I was out. But I at least partially disappointed him by strongly suggesting he head out for breakfast while I worked. You got a problem with me watching you? He asked. A. Yeah, I don't particularly want you breathing down my neck while I work. B. Yeah, I don't really want to pull a storefront-sized sheet of plexiglass out of my inventory in front of you. I went with C. Well, no, it's just that between the plywood coming down and the window going up, there will be nothing between you and the street. But I mean, it's up to you. He gave me that long, grim stare of his. How long do you need? Half an hour should do. Truck's supposed to get here soon. Fine, back in half an hour. Blueberry muffin if they have any? He didn't answer, just went out the back. I gave him 5 minutes to get clear, then took out Tsu'na's plexiglass sheet. Swapping the plywood for the window was quick. It just took time to undo and redo all the brackets. The whole thing was finished in 15. The window wasn't crystal clear. It wasn't foggy or anything, but there was a different quality to the light coming through it. Not quite polarized, not quite shaded, but different. Very distinct sense of stuff outside being outside. Not that familiar with plexiglass in quantity. Maybe it all looks like that. Tony exceeded expectations by in fact bringing back a blueberry muffin, even if it was a little dinky hard thing, the likes of which I think I last saw at Shoney's. He inspected the new window, nodded in satisfaction, and got out his phone to let people know he was fully back in business. I polished mirrors. A busload of tots came in an hour or so later. I guess he'd been sweet-talking the daycare centers all week. They swarmed in, bounced off walls, and patted things and each other and me. Tony led them and followed the leader over the obstacle course, got them to play Sisyphus with a big medicine ball, and generally kept them frenetically active while the staffers that came with them ran damage control. It looked a lot more fun than any kindergarten I remember. Juice boxes came out at the end of it all, giving me something to clean off the mats when the swarm swarmed out the door. Tony was looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. He seemed to pretty much forget I was there. The power lunchers powered in and out, and the yoga ladies turned up in force. The day was starting to look normal, which of course meant it was time for the long shots to make an appearance. It was still Lookout and the new guy, and this time Lookout was taking point. I'd been in the back when they came in. When I went out, Tony was saying, "She still hasn't shown. Haven't seen her all week." "Yeah, we know. We've been watching. What about Lookout stopped when he saw me. You work here? Yeah, started this week. Why? What do you know about the night guy? Switched to puzzled look, turned to Tony. You've got someone working nights? No, night guy, said Lookout. Guy in armor like a knight. Waves a sword and shield around. Switched to incredulous look, turned to Tony. Is he for real? Tony demonstrated his acting ability with a shrug. Lookout growled. Yeah, I'm for real. Knocked me into a wall, stabbed our guy in the arm. Now what do you know about him? Stare, switched to pissed look, turned to Tony. Was that the blood you had me clean up? You said that was a broken nose. Tony reprised his role with another shrug. You didn't tell me about the shootings and stabbings when you hired me. What's next? Am I going to be dumping bodies for you or something? Tony tried to expand into voice acting. Hey, I threw the cleaning rag I was holding to the floor. Forget it. I'm out of here. You're not paying me enough for this. I stormed into the back out of sight, kicked the back door open, switched to the ninja, and stealthed. After the door slammed shut, I went back to the front room to see what the fallout would be. I was surprised to find all three of them standing there, looking vaguely embarrassed, like a domestic dispute had blown up right in front of them. Which I suppose technically happened. The long shots looked at Tony, who fell back on his strengths with another shrug. Look outside and gave new guy a nudge, then the two of them wandered out. Maybe I should have followed them to see where their headquarters or hangout or hideout or lair was, but I didn't have a good way to do that if they were driving. So when they were well and truly away, I went back to the back room and called out to Tony, So, windows in. Guess we're done. Yeah. I'm going to leave my number here on your desk just in case. Don't bother. Hey, you never know. Honestly, my hope that he doesn't use it is probably as strong as his desire not to, but if something bad enough happens to make him use it, it would probably have something to do with us. I went quietly out the back, re-stealthed, and made my way down a block's worth of alley before shifting to Earth normal and entering the sidewalk route. Tsu'na had said she'd be a player one after harvesting. I made my way there and found her at a machine. I slipped my arms around her shoulders and kissed her hair. She leaned her head back into my chest and continued with the cutscene she was watching. I recognized it as Southern Thanalan. Her character Rika was learning to be a paladin. The scene ended and she removed her headphones. So similar, yet so different. Yeah, I remember how personal it felt when I was there. How long did it take you to get this far in the game? Paladin? I don't remember. I was Arcanist and Summoner for a lot of the MSQ. I did cap all the classes, but that came later. When I bought the game, it came with 1 month free, and I think I got to the Sultana's party in that time. But that was with my own machine at home. She sighed softly. $1,500, you said. Thereabouts. Perhaps after my next fight. Beating someone up for computer gear? That's a serious gamer. Yes, I am champion of player one. Let me send Rika to bed and I will allow you to buy me dinner. Gracious as ever, my love. There are plenty of Chinese restaurants in Tulsa. Szechuan this, Hunan that, China whatever, with a blend of buffets and fusion places mixed in. But reviews seem to agree that if I wanted proper Peking duck, I needed Tony's Duck House. Pretty sure that's no relation to our Tony, though for all I know, Master Shen is a better cook than a martial artist. The place completely looked the part. It was slightly on the ratty side with a few glass lanterns hanging here and there, one of those waving cat things behind the bar, and, most importantly, a majority Asian clientele. There were even a couple signs, handwritten in Chinese, that I've been led to believe advertised specials for people most likely to order them. As we were being escorted to a table, I was pleasantly surprised to pick up bits of conversation. Among the abilities of the Echo, our blessing from Heidelin, was translation, like in Doctor Who, but I hadn't had occasion to why to see if it still worked for us, or worked for us. I might need to check out Telemundo now, and revisit anime. I ordered Peking duck and some bok choy stir fry. When the duck was ready, it was brought out on a cart by an older man who may have been the restaurant's Tony. He stood the carcass on end and made quick, efficient work of it with a knife, shaving off first the crispy skin and then the tender meat, laying it all out on platters. When he had reduced it to bones, he gave me a bow, I gave him a nod, and he carted the remains away. Tsu'na had watched the carving with interest. After the man had left, she asked, "And that is what you threatened to do to the Longshots?" "Yes, my love." "I approve. Then would you have needed to cook them first?" "Better to keep threats simple. Now, let's see if you approve of the duck." We didn't really need utensils in Eorzea, but I'd insisted on teaching Tsu'na how to use chopsticks and kugani because I wanted to show off. She remembered enough to be able to follow along as I spread out the pancake, applied the plum sauce, laid out the scallions, and selected a combination of skin and meat. We rolled up our pancakes together. We took our first bites together. We dripped plum sauce on ourselves together. I grinned and leaned forward. "Eat over the plate, my love." We did not grin together. She scowled as she fussed with her napkin in her lap. "Food was not as messy in Eorzea. Is this why you keep making pies?" "That's more of a theme thing." "Will we be making duck pies?" "That would take a lot of duck hunting." "Is it duck season?" "Not sure. Might be wabbit season." "What is a wabbit?" "Not important." We ate, we talked, we unwound. Normal couple doing a normal thing in a normal restaurant before going off to do our normal Friday night thing in a normal dive bar. Normal is nice sometimes. I had a reader in Kenya. Yes, I have a reader in Kenya. I had a reader in Kenya tell me that is not how Szechuan is spelled. So I got on Google Street View and I found a restaurant that had a big sign in front of it that had Szechuan spelled in exactly that way and showed it to her. I am so glad to be educational. She also said Peking is not spelled Peking. The answer to that is that yes, it is in Cantonese, which I didn't know. Maxon had to tell me. Entry 102 by Tsu'na, crowdsource. For those new to the story, Tsu'na does a lot of Googling. Googling. Duck season, wabbit season. Video, Rabbit Fire, Looney Tunes 1951. Rabbit Fire, a 1951 Looney Tunes cartoon starring Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Elmer Fudd. Cartoon, a type of visual art that is typically drawn, frequently animated, in an unrealistic or semi-realistic style. Cartoon Network, an American cable television channel owned by Warner Brothers Discovery. Cartoon Network primarily targets children aged 6 to 12, while its early morning block Cartoonito is aimed at preschool-age children, and evening block Adult Swim targets older teenagers and young adults aged 18 to 34. Crowdsource. Obtain information or input into a particular task or project by enlisting the services of a large number of people, either paid or unpaid, typically via the internet. Hypocrisy. The practice of claiming to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. Perhaps I do not understand cartoons. What I understood of rapid fire I found funny, but it was very violent with people shooting at each other. At least, I think they were people, though husband does not mention beast tribes that look like rabbits or, I gather, ducks. I assume it was not a duck beast man we ate for dinner in Tulsa. Husband had told me to not tell the children at the library too much about violence. Yet the cartoon was violent, and I think meant to be funny using violence. Cartoon Network came up while Googling cartoons. It shows cartoons, and Wikipedia said it is meant for children. So is cartoon violence different from other violence, and therefore more acceptable for children? Last night was violence without cartoons. It was my shift at the pit. Husband was looking at Arkansas on his laptop, trying to figure out where to go for his bauxite. Perhaps it is our bauxite, but I do not have a use of my own for aluminum. Mitch was not at the pit last night. He still offers to take my hat and coat, but without him to do that I did not think to remove them. So my ears and tail were not showing when two strangers came in. They were not dressed like Wyatt customers. Their clothes reminded me of people in Polly's pub. They came to the bar and ordered beer, but did not seem very interested in it when it came, nor the pool darts, nor the pool tables, nor darts. They mostly seemed interested in women. They watched the two women who were there with the men at the pool tables, then turned to look at the one woman by herself at the bar. They smiled as they approached me. Their smiles did not seem warm and welcoming. Their eyes made me think of husband looking at bicycles in Walmart. One of them tried to be friendly. "Hey there, little lady. You're looking lonely tonight." I tried to be polite with a smile of my own. "I am working." "Really? You don't look too busy. Not a lot of customers here for you?" I looked over at the pool tables. Both had people playing, and there was also a man throwing darts. "They are well behaved tonight." "Well, that can't be any fun. Want to have some fun with us tonight?" "What kind of fun?" I did not think they meant hunting gators. "There's a party tonight at our friend's house. It could be a good one if a fine lady like yourself came along." "This is nearby. Do I know these people?" "Tulsa Burbs. You can come along, make some new friends, have some drinks." He brought out a roll of money from a pocket. "500 if you make people happy. More fun than hanging around here, right?" I thought about the offer. I thought I knew what they were asking for, but I felt I should confirm, in case this was an earth thing I did not understand. "Husband?" He looked up from his laptop. "Yes, my love?" "These men wish to pay me to go to a party with them to help entertain. What does that mean?" He blinked at me, then turned to consider the men. "Well, I suppose I could be wrong, but it sounds to me like they want you to be a sex worker." "Like the women in Allegheny?" "Pretty much, yeah." The strangers looked confused and perhaps nervous. Uh, you said you work here?" "I work here, yes. I am a bouncer." Should I have been flattered that they wanted me for sex? I did not feel flattered that they thought I would do it for money. But husband has shown in the past that he is willing and eager to step in on my behalf. So I decided to be kind and let him. "Do you wish to defend my honor, husband?" "I would love to defend your honor. But how about we crowdsource it this time?" "Crowdsource?" Husband looked to the people at the pool tables and raised his voice. "Hey guys, these two clowns want to hire Miss Tsu'na as a party girl. What do you think we should do?" Everyone turned to look at the two clowns. The men started moving forward, some still holding pool cues, until one of the women said, "Can we watch her beat 'em up?" The men seemed interested in that idea. Husband turned back to me with a smile. "I believe we have a crowdsourced solution." The clown with the money started to say, "Hey, look, nobody's before I grabbed his shirt and lifted him off the floor. His friend said, "Hey, get your hands up!" before I grabbed and lifted him as well. The two of them weighed less than Sam's truck, but I still needed to bend my knees a bit for balance. Husband leaned in. Now, you guys offered, how much did they offer you, my love? $500. That's all? Jeez. Okay, so you guys offered $500 for my wife to party with you. Here's our counteroffer. You give us that 500 and she lets you walk out of here without limping. The clown with the money thrust it at husband, who snatched it out of his hand and turned to Sam. Round for the house on me. There were murmurs of approval from my fans, and they approached the bar. I let the clowns down onto their feet. Husband lowered his voice. Now, I'd let you stay for a refill, but the guys didn't get the show they were hoping for. You two might want to be gone before they remember that. They stared at us. The clown without money asked, "Who the hell are you people?" I smiled. "We are here, cat. Do not fuck with us." Husband added, "And don't believe everything you see in porn. There's places that can get you killed." Hey, you just wanted a cheap whore for your bros and you thought you'd find one out in the sticks where no one cares. Guess what? We care. Leave. Now. This is a limited time offer. I noticed some of my fans starting to pay attention to the clowns. The clowns noticed it too. They did not run, but they did leave quickly. I looked up a word on my phone as Sam came over to talk to us. Thought y'all weren't trying to show how strong you were. Husband smiled. Yeah, but that was just too much fun. Wasn't it fun, my love? I found the word I was looking for. It was fun, yes. But was it hypocrisy? Hypocrisy? Were the people at Mary's not trying to do to us what we just did to those two clowns? They were, yes. They were defending their territory from encroachment by people with illegitimate intent. They just didn't do it very well, and they shouldn't have done it to us. I don't think I ever said they were wrong. You hurt them. I went back and healed them. And now they worship you. Hey, if those two clowns decide to worship you, I'll completely understand. I am not certain, but I do not think I want both worshippers and fans. What is... Water break? I suppose I still need to consider a sippy cup. Like Christy. Christy's got a humongous one. Entry 103 by Steve. Bauxite. The echo is not a translator. I should have realized that at the restaurant, since I could understand what people were saying but couldn't read the signs. It just didn't click until I tried an episode of Assassination Classroom and couldn't make out the undubbed version. Didn't matter if what I watched was live action. I tried a random Spanish show trailer on YouTube and couldn't understand it either. The wikis were a bit inconclusive about the echo working for written text. One forum discussion noted that the character couldn't read a coded message and had to take it to someone for translation. Nothing talked about information per se having ethereal content or presence. But I remembered Mikoto getting into it in Kugani and later in Basja, so I hunted down a transcript of the cutscene of the Rabanastra plotline. What she had talked about was how ether made up the immaterial elements of a person, their soul, and their memories. Because of this, if you could read the ether in a person, you could read what was in their mind. This reminded me of something I'd figured out or understood or got the impression of years ago, that language doesn't contain information. People's heads do. Language is a set of symbols that someone generates because they correspond in his head to knowledge that he has, and that he hopes will correspond enough to the knowledge in someone else's head to convey meaning. From an ethereal or atomic standpoint, the language itself is just ink on paper, or grooves in stone, or patterns of movement in the air, or modulated fluctuations of lightning traveling over wire. Which means what the echo is doing when it translates is really a form of telepathy. It's grabbing the ideas in the head of the guy speaking that correspond to the language he's trying to say and placing it in our heads. If the guy doesn't happen to be available to be read, there's nothing for the echo to grab. Which might mean we could know what a guy's writing when he's writing it, but not once he's done writing and walking away. Same with audio or video recordings. Unless we're seeing or hearing something in real time, and it doesn't take much distance or propagation delay or 5-second safety buffering to make it not real time, we're probably not going to understand shows or music. We might not even be able to understand stuff over phone or CCTV if the person on the other end is far enough away. I don't know if the echo has a range limit. So, new experiment set for the list. Find someone who speaks a foreign language that we can trust or convince to try things out with. Maybe we can claim we're working on an automated translation system and we need a test subject. Tsu'na might be tickled to have someone else be one for a change. It was a pleasantly unremarkable Saturday at the pit, so we were rather rested and refreshed for a bauxite expedition the next day. Arkansas Geological Survey maps say there's bauxite not too far to the southeast of Little Rock, which meant there wouldn't be too much off-road travel. Though, if it had proved too far for biking, we'd have needed to do it at night to take the goo-boos. Getting to Little Rock was actually trickier. Neither Tulsa nor Little Rock are that small, but Greyhound didn't want to give me a route from one to the other without going through Dallas. I wound up finding a bus southeast to Sallisaw, which was apparently a bus train hub that I'd never heard of, and another bus east along 140 from there. As Tsu'na and I waited for the bus to Tulsa, I told her, while we're looking for bauxite, we should also keep an eye out for diamonds, so make sure you have Truth of Mountains active. She peered at me. Why do we want diamonds? They sell for a lot of money here. Diamonds. Yes, my love. You could not sell diamonds in Eorzea. You listed them for 5 gil and they never sold. Yes, my love. Remember how I found that strange? How much do they sell for here? Good ones can go for thousands of dollars. She froze. Each? Yes, my love. Why did you not bring diamonds from Eorzea? They were with my retainer. The golden circle had just appeared in front of us. I didn't know if it would stick around long enough for me to go get stuff. She grabbed my shoulders and bored into my eyes. You will make a wealth kit. You will fill it with valuable things. You will always keep it in your inventory. We will not find ourselves on another world with no money. Excellent idea, my love. I have a better one. We will make wealth kits. Yes, that is a better idea. The same maps that said bauxite was near Little Rock also said diamonds weren't, that they were well to the southwest near Murfreesboro and Crater of Diamonds National Park. But that didn't mean we couldn't look. We still don't know for sure why we find notes where we do. Bauxite is typically mined using open cut techniques, which kind of means a quarry. There's a good-sized quarry southeast of Little Rock, south of the Area 3M plant, off of 3M Road. It's practically right outside the city, so it would be easy enough to get to. But we decided to wait until nightfall because getting in over the fence would be so much easier if we flew. Which left us with some time to kill in Little Rock. Not a lot, not enough for full walking tours or for really doing justice to museums. Tsu'na's been studying a kid's science site, So she was interested in something called the Museum of Discovery, until we saw on their website that the exhibits were made for kids 6 and under, and we didn't have a handy kid to borrow. There's something similar in Tulsa called Discovery Lab, though, so maybe we can offer to help chaperone a field trip or something. But we did get dinner, bowing to the insistence of the tourism sites that Little Rock barbecue and cheese dip, not necessarily together, are to die for. It did broaden our view of barbecue a bit. The cheese dip too, though it's more thematically compatible with our pretzels. The quarry was a not terribly long bike ride. Google Satellite showed it was nearly a quarter mile across, with a belt of trees around it, enough to make it not too obvious from the road, other than the signs and the trucks and the chain link fence and the blasting zone warnings. But still, scenically compatible. Arkansas Geological Survey listed the bauxite mine as abandoned, but there still seemed to be activity, with the occasional truck rumbling out. Maybe they ran out of bauxite, but I guess a big stone hole in the ground is still good for making bigger by taking stone away. And if we can get corn from a harvested cornfield, it was worth trying to get bauxite from a harvested bauxite mine. We shifted to minor, complete with gatherer sneak, and prowled the perimeter until we found a place with trees on both sides of the fence. It was dark enough by then to chance a quick goo hop over the fence. There was no activity in our section of the quarry, either because it was late enough in the day or because there's plenty enough quarry to keep busy in. So we utilized lay of the land, found some mineral nodes, and got to work. No diamonds in the bauxite quarry, but there were hidden items coming up from time to time, like garnets and quartz. Even in quantity, they aren't the sort of thing we can get rich with, though we can maybe make a little money selling raw stuff to lapidary shops or finished stuff to jewelry shops. So that gets back to ID. Diamonds would be worth enough to interest a fence, but not one-off accessories. Maybe I can somehow work out crafting leads with Sam. Google says the ratio of bauxite to aluminum is 5-1. More specifically, it says it takes 5 tons of bauxite to make 1 ton of aluminum. Since the entire ultralight is supposed to weigh less than 300 pounds, we might not need a literal ton of aluminum, but we're capable of thinking big. So we were prepared for a night of mining. At least we thought we were. We didn't sleep that much on the bus, and we sort of kept moving after hitting Little Rock, and physical effort and all. So after putting in some good work, we decided to get some decent rest and have a fresh start at mining after. Problem was, enough sleep would take us into the daytime hours, while our orange pop-up tent would be visible from the quarry. We could kubu hop over the fence and pitch the tent outside, but then we wouldn't be able to hop back in broad daylight. Why did you buy an orange tent, husband? It was cheap. I wasn't thinking about stealth at the time. It will not be Sam finding us this time and offering breakfast. Perhaps we could glamour it. Glamour a tent? Yes, like what the resistance did to that flag at Castelnaudina. Oh, the Snake Lady Tower. Right, but that was glamoring a flag to another flag. What will we glamour the tent to? A tent of a different color? Why not use a tent of a different color? Her mouth opened and, after a moment, closed again. Actually, I think you might be onto something, but we can experiment at home. Let's just do it the Earth way tonight. What is the Earth way? The Earth way was cutting foliage and using it to cover the tent. There was enough underbrush that it didn't take long, and it made us just that much more ready to sleep when we were done. We woke to the sound of a rather not too healthy sounding dump truck rumbling nearby. We breakfasted on venison pie, dressed for gathering, activated sneak, and decamped. The truck, it seemed, was a random passerby, presumably with business elsewhere in the quarry. We got to our own business, further amassing bauxite and finding a couple other random things, like hematite and pyrolusite. The latter was sort of cool looking, with feathery and thready crystals. Googling it showed crystal nuts, correction, enthusiasts think it's good for a transformative effect on relationships. Other sites say it's a different sort of transformative in that it's a carcinogen and a mutagen. So with bauxite and cool rocks and cheese dip to show for our trip, I may have gotten 3 carry-out tubs. We returned to Wyatt, washed up, did household stuff, and headed to the workshop to learn how to smelt aluminum. I stopped in the pit to say hello to Sam. Hey there, don't you got diner work tonight? In a couple hours, yeah. Just got back from Arkansas. Find your bauxite? Yeah, we did. Know what else we found? Cheese dip. I stared at him. He shrugged. They're right next door. Yeah, but seriously, cheese dip? I mean, what a thing to be known for. Who cares about cheese dip? Sam grinned. Arkansas. Bring back any? What the hell? I took out a tub and set it on the bar. He kept grinning until he touched it. It's warm? Nutri for dinner. Go ahead, I've got more. When I got to the workshop, Tsu'na was sitting at the workbench on a stool with her head resting on her arms. I do not think I want to smelt, husband. So I got out the camping gear once again, and we took a nap on the mats and sleeping bags. And we didn't need any cheese dip. Yes, apparently Arkansas is famous for its cheese dip. I had no idea until I looked to see what Arkansas cuisine was. Last entry of the evening. Entry 104 by Tsu'na. Midlife crisis. The weather increases as time goes on. I did not like mining bauxite. The mining was no different from any other mining, but each chunk of bauxite ore gathered and each aluminum ingot made from it brought us one step closer to making husband's airplane. I did not want him to fall down and crash. I did not want to fall down and crash with him, yet I had taken a bus with him and dined on barbecue and cheese dip with him and camped with him, all to make it more possible for that to happen. I had claimed to be tired, and it was true. We had not slept enough and not well on the hard ground near the quarry, so we rested and relaxed and did not try to smelt until yesterday, when there was no reason not to. We had gathered stones along with the bauxite that could perhaps be used for jewelry, but that is not our current project. We had stored them in ammo boxes, but did not want to keep them with us, so we dumped them into a drawer in the workshop for when we are ready. They are now a new thing for Deputy Frank to find if he searches the workshop again. We made aluminum. The recipe was simple. 5 pounds of bauxite made a 1 pound aluminum ingot. We wrote both blacksmith and armorer recipes so that husband could use fire shards while I used ice shards. We made hundreds of ingots. When we were done, husband got busy with the ultralight blueprints, figuring out how many ingots would make how many bars to be how many components for the skeleton. After a while, he said he would mow the Hartman lawn before dinner. I said I had some thinking of my own to do, which was true. I went to the pit. Sam brought me a Coke. So, here you got your bauxite. Yes, we have started smelting aluminum. How's that going for you? I brought an aluminum ingot from inventory and set it on the bar. Sam picked it up and studied it as he turned it over in his fingers. Huh. And this is what you're using for the ultralight frame? You really are making one then? It would seem so. He grinned as he handed the ingot back. Bet Steve's heart's just warmed all to hell by your enthusiasm. I shrugged. If it is not built yet, it cannot crash and burn yet. But perhaps that will never happen. Get built or crash and burn. I made myself smile. Hey, at least you got something the two of you can do together. You'll go off and do your own thing too much, you might forget about each other. I've seen it happen. I think living in this world together is our adventure. Huh, not a bad way of looking at it. Sam looked thoughtful. You know, if Steve was twice as old as he is, I'd think he was having a midlife crisis. What is a midlife crisis? That's a thing that happens to some men, maybe some women too, I don't know. When they get to about middle age and they think they ain't going to live as long as anymore, and there's stuff they've never done. So they get an itch to start doing them. Of course, the classic thing is getting a red sports car and a hot blonde and driving off somewhere. A hot blonde what? It is my understanding that in these modern times it is not politically correct for me to speculate in that matter. Googling hot blonde later mostly showed me images of women, though there was also a type of tree, a type of coffee, and something called a CBD. Since Sam was talking about middle-aged men, I assumed he meant a woman, though perhaps he meant the CBD. The ultralight is not a sports car, I said. Am I a hot blonde? Sam smiled. I probably shouldn't answer that where your husband might hear. Anyway, it's not like Steve's middle age or anything. Unless it's a combat thing. You mean being on deployment? Yeah, after all, people out in the field, no offense, tend to die kind of early. So, I don't know, never served myself, you'll have to tell me. Maybe it's like that? He gets done with his tour, he ain't risking his life no more. He's back home and with you. New life, new wife. I found myself saying, new adventure. New adventure. Sure. New adventures are important to us, yes. I finished my Coke and stood. I suppose I will help my husband with his. I have learned I can use my laptop as an orchestrion. There is much music in YouTube, including long videos of music with a theme. We would use it as we would use a playlist with our house orchestrion in Eorzea, playing a few pieces of music over and over. Though in the room we made into a sort of gallery of things we found, husband often selected ambient wind chimes for music. I went from the bar to the workshop, set up my laptop, and found a long video of wind chimes to play while I thought. Husband is not a middle-aged man. If his theories are correct, the man I live with in this world is but a few moons old. Yet he remembers being a middle-aged man. Perhaps he sometimes thinks like one. It seems a middle-aged man thinks of new things to do. New life, new wife, new adventure. Perhaps there is a middle-aged man, whom husband remembers being, that once thought of having new adventures, and who was once very fond of a game he played. Rifts happened in Eorzea, through which people and Voidsend traveled. I do not know where the rifts came from. Perhaps it was studied in Charlayan, but I cannot ask a Charlayan scholar about it. There are many things I would ask a Charlayan scholar about in this world if I could. But husband thinks, and I think I remember some people in Eorzea thinking, that ether can take on form from will. If everything is a manifestation of ether, would rifts also be? And can they be formed as an act of will? Teleportation to and between etherites was an act of will and an expanding of guilt that navigated an ethereal stream. If everything in both worlds is ether, is a rift simply navigating a stream between them? What if a middle-aged man, having a midlife crisis and craving adventure and enamored of a computer game and a character he created in it, wished strongly enough for it that he formed a rift without meaning to, and manifested a copy of himself on the other side of it? It seems unlikely, but husband insists on not using the word impossible. And what of a much younger man who remembers being that middle-aged man? A man who, as Sam said, was a combat veteran, who had just gotten done saving the world by defeating an entire hostile race in the depths of the Tempest, and who perhaps wondered what he would do next. Could he open a rift as well without meaning to, looking for the next new life, new wife, new adventure? Is being in this world, in this life with his wife, the adventure he sought? When we appeared in the woods near town, he did not seem to have expected to be on Earth, and certainly not in Oklahoma. Perhaps it being unexpected was part of the adventure. Husband came in as I was thinking. He stopped and smiled as he listened to the wind chimes. YouTuber program. YouTube. Am I a hot blonde, husband? The hottest. Why, does somebody call you one? Sam mentioned hot blondes when I was talking with him. Really? His wife's a brunette. Wonder if he's having a midlife crisis. He approached and gently stroked my hair with his fingertips. Do I need to prejudicially explain to him that this hot blonde is taken? I think he knows. I will help husband build his airplane. I agree we need to travel. I think we need to travel far to the east, to the place he remembers as his home. Perhaps he would like seeing it again. And I think I want to meet original him. And that's it for tonight's reading.